Hi, this is Adrienne. This video is about subtracting fractions with different denominators. The steps that we follow for subtracting fractions with different denominators are essentially the same as those that we follow when we add fractions with different denominators. First, we have to find the least common denominator. Then we write equivalent fractions with that new denominator. We subtract the numerators. The denominator remains the same, and our last step is always to simplify if possible. So let's look at this example here, 1/2 minus 1/5. So we need to find out what is the least common denominator for 2 and 5. Well, if we notice that both 2 and 5 are prime numbers, then we know that the least common denominator is the product of 2 and 5. So we multiply them together. 2 times 5 is 10. So 10 is our least common denominator. Next, we need to write equivalent fractions with that new denominator. So we look across and say, going from 2 to 10, what do we have to do? We have to multiply by 5. So in order for the fractions to be equivalent, we must do the same thing to the numerator. So we multiply 1 times 5 is 5. So what we're really doing here is multiplying by 5 over 5. Going from 5 to 10, we're multiplying by 2. So we need to do the same to the numerator. 1 times 2 is 2. And now we can go on to our next step, which is to subtract the numerators. 5 minus 2 leaves us with 3, and our denominator of 10 stays the same. And our last step is always to reduce if possible. In this case, 3/10 is already reduced to simplest form, so we cannot reduce it any further. If we look at another example here, 5 over 32 minus 1 over 16. Our first step is to find the least common denominator. In this case, 16 goes into 32. So if one of the denominators goes into the other, then we automatically know that the larger one, in this case 32, is the least common denominator. So 32 is our least common denominator. So now we have to write equivalent fractions with that new denominator. Well, 32 is our denominator. 5 over 32 remains the same. Going from 16 to 32, we're multiplying by 2 over 2. 16 times 2 is 32, so 1 times 2 is 2. And now we can subtract. 5 minus 2 leaves us with 3. We subtract the numerators, and our denominator, 32, remains the same. And in this case also, the answer is in simplest form already. We cannot reduce 3 over 32, so that is our answer. And those are the steps for subtracting fractions with different denominators.